For centuries, the Dead Sea has been known as Earth's deadest place, so salty that no fish could survive in its toxic waters, and so low it sits 429 meters below sea level. But 2,500 years ago, the prophet Ezekiel wrote that one day, life would pour back into this lifeless abyss, filling it with fish and trees, in a miracle as precise as it was impossible. Today, scientists are stunned. Freshwater craters, swarming with life, have been found exactly where the Bible predicted. If the Dead Sea truly has fulfilled Ezekiel's prophecy, as this documentary reveals, the consequences for both faith and science are seismic. But is this really the long-awaited sign, or does another revelation wait beneath the surface? In a land where sunlight scorches the stone and wind carries only silence, the Dead Sea waits, a basin of salt and shadow, lower than any other place on earth. Its waters are heavy, dense, and bitter. Here, at 429 meters below sea level, the air itself feels pressed down, thickened by the weight of the valley. The surface shimmers with a stillness that borders on lifelessness. No river fish dares to cross its invisible threshold. No reeds or lilies break the glassy expanse. For every liter of water, nearly a third is pure salt, 340 grams, 10 times more than the world's oceans. Even a single drop on the tongue stings and burns. The chemistry of this place is a sentence. Nothing with scales or fins survives. The rules are written into the water itself. Osmosis, the silent thief, strips every cell of moisture. Gills collapse, eyes cloud. The Dead Sea does not forgive trespass. Its very name is a warning, whispered through centuries. Here, life ends. Geologists have measured the minerals, mapped the depths, and returned with the same verdict. The shoreline recedes year after year, exposing mudflats and salt crystals, but no sign of renewal. The lowest point on Earth is also its most stubborn graveyard. From above, the landscape is a wound, cracked earth battered by sun, ringed by cliffs and barren hills. The salt content is so high that no boat can sink, but neither can any living thing endure. The water's density presses down on everything beneath it, creating a world of extremes, crushing pressures, suffocating lack of oxygen, and a chemical hostility that defies adaptation. For centuries, explorers and scientists alike have searched for exceptions, for some overlooked survivor. Their nets come up empty. Their microscopes reveal only the hardiest of microbes, thriving where nothing else can. The Dead Sea's reputation is no exaggeration. It is a place where the laws of nature seem absolute. Yet, in the face of such certainty, the question lingers. If even the smallest fish cannot survive these waters, what hope could there be for life to return? The answer, if it exists, must come from beyond the reach of ordinary explanation. The world's deadest place holds its crown by the sheer force of chemistry, geography, and time itself. Centuries before the Dead Sea was known for its lifeless salt, a prophet in exile described a vision that defied the logic of his age. Ezekiel, writing in Babylon during the 6th century before Christ, recorded words that have echoed through history. He saw water flowing eastward from the temple in Jerusalem, descending into the scorched valley, reaching the bitter sea. Where that water touched, the impossible would happen. The water there becomes fresh. Swarms of living creatures will live wherever the river flows. There will be large numbers of fish because this water flows there and makes the salt water fresh. So, where the river flows, everything will live. Fishermen will stand along the shore. From En-Gedi to En-Eglaim, there will be places for spreading nets. The fish will be of many kinds, like the fish of the great sea. These are not vague promises. The prophecy names real places. En-Gedi, still an oasis on the western shore, and En-Eglaim, whose exact location is lost, but whose mention marks the reach of the Dead Sea's northern boundary. Ezekiel's vision draws a line from one end of the shoreline to the other, mapping a transformation that would be visible to any traveler. The text does not settle for metaphor. It speaks of nets and fishermen, of species as abundant as those in the Mediterranean. It describes fruit trees lining the banks, their leaves never withering, their fruit renewing each month, nourished by water that flows from the sanctuary itself. Yet Ezekiel's vision is not the first to speak of such change. Genesis remembers this valley as once lush, like the garden of the Lord, before judgment fell on Sodom and Gomorrah. Zechariah, centuries later, would echo the same hope, living waters flowing out from Jerusalem, half to the eastern sea, half to the west. The pattern is unmistakable. Where the world sees a graveyard, Scripture points to restoration. The curse is not the final word. In the language of the prophets, geography becomes a canvas for redemption, and the Dead Sea, against all expectation, is named as the theater for a miracle that can be measured in water, in fish, in fruit, and in time. In the summer of 2011, a team from Ben Gurion University prepared for a descent few had dared before. Their goal was not the surface, but the hidden world beneath, the Dead Sea's mysterious floor, a landscape uncharted and, by all expectation, barren. The divers dropped into water denser than any ocean, the pressure mounting with every meter. At a depth where sunlight fades and salt forms a crystal haze, they found something no textbook had prepared them for: a crater, wide as a house, plunging 15 meters deep into the seabed. From its walls and floor, clear water surged upward, fresh, cold, and utterly out of place in this realm of brine. The discovery did not end with water alone. The crater's edges were draped in living carpets, mats of green and white, teeming with microscopic life. These microbial colonies clung to the rocks, thriving in pockets where the fresh spring met salt, forming a borderland of chemical possibility. Instruments recorded the data: salinity dropping, oxygen rising, a microclimate in defiance of the Dead Sea's reputation. For the scientist, this was more than an oddity. The Dead Sea's chemistry was supposed to be an iron law. Nothing survives. Yet here, in the shadowy depths, a new rule was being written. The team logged every measurement, every image, every sample, their excitement tempered by a sense of disbelief. The world's deadest water was yielding secrets, fresh water venting from the earth itself, creating oases on the very floor of the abyss. No one could say how long these craters had lain hidden, or what forces had carved them open. The only certainty was that the Dead Sea was not as final as it seemed. Where science had drawn a line, nature had begun to blur it. In the spring of 2016, a quiet determination led Samantha Siegel to the edge of the impossible. She was neither scientist nor celebrity, but her curiosity was relentless. Day after day, she walked the barren margins of the Dead Sea, eyes searching the crusted earth for any sign of change. Most called it a fool's errand. Everyone knew these waters were hostile to life, yet she pressed on, guided by a conviction that prophecy was not just poetry, but promise. One afternoon, the salt flats broke their silence. In a shallow pool isolated from the main body by a thin ridge of silt, something moved, a flicker beneath the surface, quick as a breath. Samantha knelt, heart pounding, and saw them. Fish, unmistakable, darting through clear water. Their scales caught the sunlight, silver and alive, defying every chemical law written in the Dead Sea's brine. For a moment, time stood still. No textbook, no expert, no ancient warning could explain what her eyes confirmed. She returned again and again, documenting the pools, tracing the paths of fresh water that had seeped up through hidden faults. Each visit revealed more. Tiny schools weaving between stones, their movements proof that the boundary between death and life was not as fixed as the world believed. Word spread quickly, from local whispers to international faith circles. Samantha's discovery became a story shared in churches, online forums, and eventually in scientific meetings. Her camera roll filled with images that challenged the old verdict of lifelessness. Skeptics argued for floods, for accidental introductions, for short-lived survivors. But standing at the water's edge, Samantha saw more than biology. She saw hope made visible, a sign that what was once called dead could stir again. In the hush of that shoreline, prophecy took on flesh and fin, and the Dead Sea's silence yielded to the sound of living water. Far from being a single anomaly, the Dead Sea's transformation is written across its shoreline in thousands of sudden, silent ruptures. Since 1980, more than 9,500 sinkholes have opened in the earth, some as small as a footprint, others large enough to swallow trees, fences, even roads. Each one is a gateway, a breach where the old rules of salt and death begin to falter. Beneath the surface, invisible rivers work in darkness. Rainfall in the Judean hills seeps through stone, gathering in aquifers that run deep beneath the desert. When the Dead Sea's water level drops, year after year, the pressure changes, and these hidden reservoirs are set in motion. Water finds the weakest points, dissolving ancient salt layers, carving out hollow chambers, until, without warning, the ground collapses. What remains is a sinkhole, often filled with clear, fresh water, cold and sweet compared to the bitter brine just meters away. Scientists have traced the origins of these springs with the precision of isotope analysis. Stable isotope signatures, Delta 18O and Delta 2H, match the local rainfall, not distant sources. The water's chemistry tells a story of patience, decades, sometimes centuries, passing underground before surfacing. Discharge rates from these springs are not trivial. Measurements show flows ranging from 200 to 1,200 cubic meters per day in some sites, enough to fill a public swimming pool every few hours. The pattern is unmistakable. After heavy rains, or when irrigation upstream returns water to the ground, the springs surge, feeding new pools and channels. Maps from Israeli and Jordanian surveys reveal a patchwork of sinkholes stretching along the retreating shoreline and into the alluvial plains. Each is a microcosm, a place where salt and fresh water wrestle for dominance. The scale is vast, the process relentless. What began as scattered exceptions has become a regional phenomenon. Thousands of life pockets, each rewriting the story of the world's deadest sea. Along the western shore, where salt once smothered every route, a new spectacle unfolds. 4 miles of coastline erupt in wild color, an unbroken ribbon of blossoms, petals pressing against the old crust, staking a claim where only dust and brine reigned for centuries. The air, once heavy with bitterness, now carries the sweet scent of life. Orchards rise where nothing but thorns survived before, their branches heavy with fruit. Date palms, grown from seeds unearthed at Masada after 2,000 years of sleep, stretch skyward and bear their first harvest. Each tree is a living testament, roots drawing strength from earth long written off as cursed. Botanists catalog the change with careful hands, counting species, measuring growth, but numbers cannot capture the wonder. The shoreline, once a border between life and loss, now blurs into living green, Ancient prophecies spoke of trees whose leaves do not wither, fruit that renews each season, sustained by unseen water. Here, in the shadow of the cliffs, that vision takes on flesh, an invitation to believe that even the most barren ground can bloom again. Noam Badine, a photojournalist driven by both curiosity and conviction, began to chronicle the Dead Sea's quiet transformation. With camera in hand, he traced the new shorelines, capturing images that defied the old verdict of death. His work did not remain hidden in scientific journals or private archives. Instead, it traveled, shared through faith communities, environmental networks, and above all, through social media. Each image, each short video, became a seed of astonishment. Then in 2023, a video by Aline Soukis showed fish swimming in a pool at the Dead Sea's edge. The footage spread with a speed that no academic paper could match. Within weeks, more than 3 million people had watched, commented, and shared. The story leapt across continents, fueled by a hunger for signs and wonders. Mainstream newsrooms hesitated, but Christian and apologetic platforms embraced the narrative, amplifying every new discovery. Badine's documentation, once dismissed as fringe, now reached a global audience. Viral posts turned the Dead Sea into a symbol, no longer just a cautionary tale of environmental decline, but a stage where prophecy and science met before the eyes of millions. The conversation shifted. What began as isolated findings entered the public imagination, raising new questions about the boundaries between the possible and the promised. The story of the Dead Sea's renewal cannot be separated from the return of a people to their ancient land. In 1948, Israel was reborn, a nation restored after centuries of exile. Ezekiel once wrote, "But you, mountains of Israel, will produce branches and bear fruit for my people Israel, for they will soon come home." Only after that homecoming did the land begin to change. The desert blooms. The shoreline, once a grave for all living things, now hints at a future foretold. Skeptics raise their voices. They say the chemistry makes life impossible, that prophecy is only poetry, that these signs should have appeared long ago, or that random chance explains every blossom and every fish. Yet the pattern is too precise, the timing too aligned. The names, En-Gedi and Eglaim, are not metaphors, but real places, now touched by fresh water and new life. This restoration is not only for the eye or the scientist. It speaks to the soul. Isaiah promised, "The wilderness and the dry land shall be glad. The desert shall rejoice and blossom like the rose." In the same way, Paul wrote that we are dead in our trespasses, but made alive through the living water of Christ. Where the world sees only salt and silence, God brings fruitfulness. The Dead Sea's slow awakening is an invitation. If he can reverse the oldest curse, who can say what he might restore in a heart that waits for him? In 2011, Ben Gurion University divers documented freshwater craters and microbial life at the Dead Sea's floor, an environment long thought completely lifeless due to its extreme 340 grams per liter salinity and lowest elevation on Earth. By 2016, video evidence confirmed fish swimming in newly formed freshwater pools, while over 9,500 sinkholes released water that allowed both plants and animals to thrive. These developments directly match the ancient text of Ezekiel 47, verses 8 to 12, which described life returning from En-Gedi to En-Eglaim. Yet some questions remain. Comprehensive species identification and the long-term sustainability of these ecosystems are still being studied. and full details about the hydrological processes are not completely understood. Still, the convergence of precise biblical geography, modern scientific documentation, and the timing following Israel's 1948 restoration present a pattern unique in recorded history. As of 2025, the evidence is clear. What was once called impossible now stands as a visible reality along the Dead Sea shores.